Here's another example using Newton's third law. This is the law of reaction forces. If I turn up the volume here, you can hear that person's exclamation. Okay? Also look at the legs. That's a fairly genuine response to what people might interpret as being pain. And in fact, this person that's being proed out sued this police department, claimed that the right fourth rib fracture that was diagnosed via CT was in fact due to this incident. And we said, okay, let's look at this biomechanically. Could this incident actually give us this injury? Well, first of all, we know that the officer's 2 feet are on the ground, his toes of his left foot are on the ground, and his right foot is on the ground. So we know, due to Newton's third law, that there is some load being taken up by the ground. Okay, not all of this officer's weight is being placed on this person's back. But if we were to be conservative engineers trying to quantify this, let's assume that all of this officer's weight is being applied through this left knee. And another thing we get from this video is location. We know it's located generally on the right side of this man's torso and generally around mid to lower back. And we estimated about rib 8. That's the only 2 pieces of information we got from this. But then we developed this. We used cadaver data, we used live human data, we used modeling data, we used in vitro, in vivo, all the data that we could find, even data that linked how ribs interact with one another when they're located next to each other. And so when I press this forward, you can see that this white arrow represents the full weight of that officer's left knee on rib 8. This is giving you the response of the chest wall. Okay, and we get a displacement of about 1.5 centimeters in this model. And what we find also from literature is that it requires a fracture displacement of about 4.5 centimeters as the threshold. So we're nowhere near that. And this is at rib 8. Let's have a look at rib 4, where the fracture actually was. At rib 4, we're getting a displacement of about 0.5 centimeter, so even less. So the question is, how did this rib fracture actually occur? And number 2, how do we explain the genuine pain response? Well, we started digging. What we found was about 3 days prior to this arrest, this gentleman had been involved in a fairly serious vehicle accident. And he was already complaining of sciatica pain. He had already seen a neurologist, and he was already booked for an MRI to investigate the source of that pain. So now we've got an explanation for the credible pain response, but we've also now got a mechanism of injury for the fracture. And that's what went into the report. And we argued that this incident was not the incident that caused the rib fracture.